All right, it says we're live, so we should be live. If you want to believe YouTube, that is. If you can hear the sound of my voice, you are the resistance. Okay, Michael DeSilvio, you gotta give a backstory behind that. Michael DeSilvio in the chat room says, even the police like my high impact flick shirts. You gotta tell me what you're talking about. Which one? The Blue Lives Murder shirts? I'm sure they don't like that one. Okay, guys, I'm going to go ahead and get started with this, even though there's just a couple people in the room right now. I wanted to do this video primarily because, well, I haven't done a live stream in a long time on YouTube, but primarily because when I put out a video like this, the one that I just put out, proof Michael Lindell and CNN are playing for the same team, and then I clarify in the pinned comment and the description, but then people seem to be confused when I try to explain myself. Maybe I'm not explaining myself well enough, but I want to give you guys an opportunity to engage with me live, because if I'm wrong, hey, I want to take my knocks and get up and do better. You know, we're all on a journey. None of us on this journey have all the answers. That's why I say none of us is greater than all of us. There is such a thing called cult of personality. There is something called cognitive dissonance that none of us are immune to. None of us are immune to checking into the cult of personality. The moment that you think you are, that you think you have, some kind of superhuman power to keep yourself from being deceived by a stronger personality or just a different personality who's more persuasive or deceptive, is the moment you can get yourself into trouble. The moment you think that you're immune to something like cognitive dissonance or, your own personal bias. We all got personal biases, guys. We all have personal biases. And sometimes, there can be good biases and there could be bad biases. Like if you're biased toward doing that which is right as opposed to doing that which is wrong, that's a good bias. But, bias kind of has a negative connotation to it. Sometimes people are biased about things that, wow, man, you really let that paint your picture of how reality really is. You might want to rethink that. So we all are subject to bias. We're all subject to falling into the pitfall of cognitive dissonance. We're all subject to checking into the cult of personality, sealing ourselves in our own echo chamber. And so I'm not immune from that either. And because none of us are greater than all of us, I wanted to talk about this Michael Lindell video that I just put out. And I want to substantiate why I think that CNN and people like Michael Lindell, Joe Biden, Donald Trump, Rand Paul are all playing for the same team owners. Remember, anytime somebody champions the cause of a Title 28, Section 3002, 15A corporate employee, they are supporting and standing in the corner of somebody who is decidedly, or a group of people who are decidedly against America and against Americans, and by extension, against all of humanity. It's called tyranny. This idea that there's something called democracy that we all need to safeguard and hold sacred and hold up and bow down to and genuflect toward is nonsense. Democracy at its core is tyranny of the majority. It's the 51% who believe that they are right, that they have the moral high ground and bossing around the 49% who don't want to be bossed around. Exerting your force against somebody's will without their consent is a criminal activity. And just because you keep company with the majority who's doing that doesn't make it right. Historically speaking, the majority is almost always, if not always, wrong. And I only say almost because, there can be an exception to that rule, but typically the rule is the majority is heading off the cliff when you should be going in the exact opposite direction. Millions follow Mike Lindell. Millions upon millions follow Donald Trump. Millions upon millions, well, probably not so many millions, follow Joe Biden. But don't take comfort in the majority or who you think the majority is. Don't take comfort in the voting system. And that's another thing that I wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk about, is voting legitimate or illegitimate? Because here's what's happening when you're voting. You have to understand, for me, it's easier to break things down into simple terms because I am kind of a simple-minded person. I like for somebody to just distill it. Don't give me a whole bunch of flowery 25-cent college words and mince up some word salad. Just give it to me straight. What is it? What is voting? Voting is the voter throwing 100% of his support behind the political personality that he wants in office so that that personality can rule himself and other people, even if the other people don't want to be ruled. And when I say throwing 100% of your support behind, let's say you voted for Donald Trump, or let's say you voted for Joe Biden, and let's say that you only agree with 75% of what Donald Trump says, the other 25% you completely disagree with. Let's say the other guy's voting for Joe Biden and he only agrees with 50% of what Joe Biden says, but the other 50%, and I don't agree with that at all. When you vote for a person, even if there's a large percentage of what that person says you disagree with, you're still supporting that person, which means you're supporting him and everything he brings into the office, including what you disagree with. So you're supporting. And don't sit there and tell me that you who voted for Donald Trump or you who voted for Joe Biden agree with 100% of everything that they say. Nobody does that. Can there be exceptions? Of course. I think that's even more rare. But when you vote for something, you're voting for even what you disagree with, because those disagreements that you disagree with are embodied in the person that you 100% supported. So essentially, you're casting your vote of 100% support behind those things that you don't agree with, that you could be vehemently against, that go against your conscience, that go against your moral code. That line in the sand you drew, when you voted for that person, you want to cross it. So voting actually dehumanizes and demoralizes the voter just on that front. But wait, there's more. But before we go to that next step, you have to understand when you're voting for that person, a lot of which you probably disagree with, you're voting for those things. You're supporting the things you disagree with. How can you do that? You have to cement yourself in cognitive dissonance to do that. You are cognitively dissonant. In other words, you're holding ideas, thoughts, or beliefs that contradict what you know to be true. You know this thing is true, but you voted for it anyway. It's called voting for the lesser of two evils. At the end of the day, you still voted for evil. And what does that make you? Voting is a psychological operation that the elites use. They use the tool of voting to get the slaves on the plantation to be comfortable with, to be pacified by, to be empowered, thinking that they can actually control the course of their own destiny. Voting is the quintessential psychological operation intended and designed to keep the slaves pacified on the plantation. Voting causes the mind of the slave to be okay with slavery, and thus okay with tyranny, and thus okay with abject immorality. Even to be okayed with things that conflict with the thoughts of his own mind by casting 100% support on that person that you voted for. If you disagree, I want to hear the point of disagreement. So when I say, here's the proof that Mike Lindell and CNN are playing for the same team, it's because CNN wants you to vote. They want to safeguard this thing called democracy. Remember when the Constitutional Congress, as the story goes, when the Constitutional Congress adjourned, some lady walked up the steps and asked Ben Franklin, "Sir, what have you given us?" And he said, "A republic, ma'am, if you can keep it." He didn't say we gave you a democracy, as though there were much of a difference there anyway. But I mean, I don't want to mince words here. The bottom line is it's basically tyranny of the majority. Benjamin Franklin said, and I quote this all the time, but it really bears repeating. It really does. Democracy is two wolves and one lamb sitting at the same table deciding what to have for dinner. And unless that's a well-armed, well-informed, knowledgeable lamb, he will be dinner. If democracy is and I agree with that assessment, democracy is two wolves and one lamb, the majority ruling over the minority. Jefferson said something like, it's the 51% ruling over the 49%. It is the tyranny of the majority. So if you're for voting, you're for the tyranny of the majority, and you hope that you're on the side of the majority so that you can exercise, because what you're supporting when you're supporting a political parasite, and that's what they are, guys, you're involving yourself in one of the most corrupt practices that I can think of in the entire world, the corrupt practice of politics. That's why I always say politics is nothing more, nothing less than the clever and deceptive art of using euphemisms, lies, emotionalism, and fear-mongering in order to dupe average people into accepting and even demanding the chains of their own enslavement. It says, if playback doesn't start shortly, try to restart your device. Can you guys, am I live? Can you guys hear me okay? Let me know, because this little thing's spinning and it says, if playback doesn't begin shortly, try restarting your device. Give me a 5x5 if you can hear me. I'm not sure if I'm live right now. Still spinning. 5x5? Okay, cool. That was a serious delay, huh? Okay, cool. Thank you, guys. Wow, that's a lot of yeses and 5x5s. Shoot, I was going to call some names out, but it just started rolling in. Okay, thank you, guys. So that's all I'm saying. In what way is Mike Lindell and CNN, or are Mike Lindell and CNN playing for the same team? They both want you to vote. They both want you to believe in the legitimacy, and I'm putting that in quotes because there's nothing legitimate about voting. There's nothing legitimate about a slave not only demanding his own enslavement, but in demanding the enslavement of others who don't want to be enslaved. There's nothing legitimate. There's nothing moral. There's nothing human or rational about that. It's evil. And people literally admit it. I didn't have a choice. I basically voted for the lesser of two evils. Well, you still voted for evil. So in the sense that Mike Lindell are the exact same at the end of the day, because they want you to believe in the legitimacy of democracy and voting. And it does not matter if there was or wasn't. I could care less if there was voter fraud. That's like saying voting is fraud. It's fraud perpetrated on the slaves to keep them on the plantation. So if voting is fraud and you say voter fraud, you're basically saying fraud. It's literally double fraud, which is something that I would call a double psychological operation. Now I want to read some negative comments here, and I want to hear what you guys have to say about this. Let's see. If you guys want my attention, don't send me a super chat if you can't afford it. Okay. I see the 2 super chats in the room. San Diego John says, thanks for doing what you do, Brian. And Kieran Tibbetts drops the super chat with no post on it, no comment. But if you guys want to get the best way to get my attention, because there's a lot of people, there's a lot of activity in the room, send me a super chat. If you disagree, I want to hear what you have to say. But I like what this guy has to say. I'm gonna read a positive comment, and then I'm gonna read some negative comments. I'm gonna put myself on blast if that's what needs to happen. This person says, and this is Kazugal Info. It is fair to argue that conservative and liberal media in the West are two sides of the same coin, just like Republican and Democrat are two wings of the same bird of prey. And that bird of prey is constantly circling and crapping on each and every one of us. If we're honest, we understand that. I personally see CNN and Fox as complementing, not contradicting each other. The former gives viewers the false impression of being liberal and critical of the system, while the latter vehemently promotes and defends the existing militaristic, racist, and supremacist system in place. I'm not so sure I agree with the racist part, because I really think while there are people all over the world that believe that they're superior to others because of the color of their skin or whatever, I don't think it's close to what mainstream media wants you to think is going on in terms of racism. The former gives the world the false impression of freedom and democracy. Well, they want to give you a true. I don't know if I agree with that whole statement, but there's a lot of I don't want to nitpick here, where everything and everyone can be criticized and held accountable, which is far from the truth, while the latter constantly agitates the public to ensure that the predominantly militaristic, capitalist, and racist system remains intact. I don't know what he's saying about capitalist. I don't see capitalism going on today. I see a bunch of corporatism, crony capitalism, which is corporatism, which is the same as any other ism, because it's basically the redistribution of wealth and power. It's a transfer of wealth and power. Always has been, always will be. The outside world thinks that America is so free to have a newspaper like the New York Times, which I call the New York Slimes, and for a reason. But they don't realize that the system operates precisely as Fox News and CNN and MSLSD and Newsmax and all those people want it to. I agree with a lot of that right there. Now, I want to show you some negative comments right here. Let me see. I like reading comments because you guys think of things that I just didn't think about. Okay, this person, Dave T, says, and Dave T, I'm not making fun of or putting anybody on blast. Okay, I want you to understand that. But Dave T says, all due respect, you're out here bitching. Okay, that word right there. For some reason, I was reading that as Bitcoin. With all due respect, you're out here bitching. Lindell's doing things. Well, okay, but what's he doing? He put his business on the line and spent millions to challenge the mainstream narrative of, quote, the most secure election in history. A lot of people put more money on the line every single day, but this is irrelevant. It doesn't matter what it costs you. It doesn't matter how many millions you put on the line. It doesn't matter that you've given your life to reinstitute the sacredness of the voting process or whatever. The question is it, at the end of the day, is voting a moral or immoral activity? By voting, do you have to go against your own conscience on any level? Is it an activity of the cognitive dissonant? Does voting actually keep slaves pacified on the plantation while asking slave masters to relieve their burdens just a little bit more? Steal from me a little bit less. Loosen my shackles. Give me a little bit more freedom. Is that what free men do? I mean, this is the land of the free, home of the brave, right? Do truly free men beg oppressors to oppress them a little less? Do free men ask masters to beat them with fewer stripes? Do free men ask bankers to please stop taking so much money for them so they can feed and clothe their kids and put a roof over their head? No. Free men, if you have to ask for permission to do something, you're not a free man. This isn't the land of the free, home of the brave. This is and has been for a long time, land of the fee, home of the slave. He's hosting a cyber symposium with a $5 million reward for those who can prove him wrong. Just keep bitching, though. Oh, and what's your evidence? Because he said democracy. That's huge. Supporting democracy is huge. And to overlook that fact, in my opinion, shows a grave level of ignorance. You have to understand, CNN wants you to engage in and promote and support democracy. Mike Lindell wants the same thing. That is unspeakably huge, guys. Unspeakably huge, because just on that front alone, you demoralize and dehumanize yourself. That's why I always give the quote of Samuel Adams: no people will tamely surrender their liberties, nor can any be easily subdued when knowledge is diffused and virtue is preserved. On the contrary, when people are universally ignorant and debauched in their manners, they will sink under their own weight without the aid of foreign invaders. It's all about maintaining your moral compass. And voting causes that to fly right out of the window. Because you admit when you're voting, I don't agree with everything, and there's some evil stuff going on there, but I'm going to go ahead and vote for that evil man anyway. I know he's going to do some evil things, and I know he's going to make people do things that they don't want to do against their will. Wait, let me ask you, if you personally wouldn't go to your neighbor and force them to do something against their will and without their consent, why the heck do you feel emboldened to go to a third party, i.e. a politician of all people, to force your neighbor to do the thing that you're not willing to go out and make him do? Your vote causes politicians to steal more money from your neighbors. And as long as you can continue to contribute to that system, you are contributing to and partaking in the evil that entire system represents. There's nothing good with the voting system. There's nothing good from top to bottom. The entire system is corrupt, ruled and controlled by the establishment and the oligarchs and the corporate media billionaires and the Zio banksters. Every bit of it. For a long time, it's been like that. So I do not understand what you're saying here, Dave T. I do not understand how people do not see this as a big deal. More Money 2 says, there is nothing in this video that suggests that Mike Lindell and CNN are playing for the same team. Truth will be revealed. Justice is coming. I'm unsubscribed. And I just said, Mike wants you to vote. CNN wants you to vote. Mike wants you to believe in the legitimacy of democracy. Same with CNN. They both want you to stay on the plantation. And the reason I put the thumbnail that I did, I've included who's on the thumbnail. I don't have it in front of me. There's Donald Trump, Joe Biden, Ocasio-Cortez, Candace Owens, Michael Lindell, and I think there's somebody else. If I missed them, let me know. People are checked into their cult of personality. Once you do that, you short circuit the entire line of critical thinking. Even if some of what some of what they say you disagree with, you're in their cult of personality. You've embroiled yourself in their paradigm. And every one of those people that I have in this thumbnail wants you to buy into the left versus right paradigm lie. And once you do that, you are putty, easy, soft, putty in the hands of the Zio banksters who control this whole thing. Easy pickings, man. Yeah, I agree, Gerald John. This goes beyond anything that you can see with the physical. There is more to this life than what meets the eye. It doesn't matter if you vote or don't. They've already been prepared. Well, it does matter if you vote or don't. It does matter. Here's why it matters. Because if you can be that beacon in the darkness, if you can be that pinhole of light that breaks through that dark fabric by not participating, and by standing in your ground and understanding you have a moral compass and you've drawn your line in the sand and you don't go any further than that, that's how the world changes. That is exactly how the world changes. And that is exactly what the big players, the billionaires, the trillionaires do not want you to do. They do not want you to be that rare jewel that shines in the blackness of darkness. Because as soon as you submit to their system and you start voting and participating in their system, your light gets extinguished. Whether you think it is or not, it is. Doesn't matter what we think. The only way you can throw back the darkness is by shining a light. And the best way to get the darkness to advance is to become a part of the darkness. And that's what voting is. Brian, you condemning us? No, you condemn you've dehumanized and demoralized yourself by playing their game. You're playing their game. Well, I can change this thing by being a Republican and becoming a delegate and then, getting into the political. Go ahead and do that. Go ahead and do it. I've done it. I became a delegate to my state convention, went to the national convention, and I saw behind the curtain of exactly what happens when you try to get a Ron Paul in there and they put a bankster, a Bank of America, Mitt Romney in there. He soundly, Ron Paul soundly, by all indications and votes, won our state our state convention. Won it soundly. I mean, it was overwhelming that we were the majority. It was overwhelming the majority of the votes. I mean, the vast majority of the votes. And if you were if you were one of those delegates in there, you know what I'm talking about. And I don't care if you were on the Democrat side or the Republican side or the, Ron Paul side. You know exactly what happened that day. Ron Paul won, and Mary Fallon, the governor back then, arrived. They turned our lights off. They closed the curtains. They cut our mics. They forced us out in the parking lot. They told us we had to leave. And then they conducted their own convention where they installed Mitt Romney in there. And the same thing happened at the national convention that year in 2012 in Tampa. When Boehner got a hold of that teleprompter, it didn't matter what the voice of the people was. They put their guy in because that's how it works. Yes, I have insider information. Who cares? Even if you don't even have to have insider information, by their actions when they get into office and start calling themselves the father of the VAXX, which is what Trump did on Fox News, increases the coffers of the military-industrial complex, which was warned against by Eisenhower back, when? What was that, back in the 1960s? Beware of the military-industrial complex. Reagan, Bush, Clinton, Donald Trump, Obama, what'd they do? Every year, increase the coffers and the budget for the military-industrial complex and make them more and more powerful. By their fruits, you will recognize them. You don't have to have been a delegate to your state convention. You don't have to have been a delegate to a national convention. You don't have to have peered behind the curtain of politics to find out what's going on. You know by their actions that they are doing the exact same thing their predecessors did. People lost their crap when Obama increased the national debt by, what was it, $9-10 trillion? In one signing, Donald Trump threw away and stole $6.2 trillion from our children and our great-grandchildren and their great-great-grandchildren. $6.2 trillion. You lost it over Obama spending $10 trillion in 8 years? And you're not going to lose it over Trump doing the exact same thing at $6.2 trillion in one signature? The national debt went off the Richter scale when Trump got in, just like it did when Obama got in, just like it did when Bush got in, and on and on and on it goes. But we're expecting something different. Maybe something different will happen this time. Yeah, just keep thinking like that. Keep doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. What's going on here? If you keep doing what you've been doing, you'll keep getting what you've been getting. That's what voting has gotten us. Just more and more crafty psychopaths. I'm tired of being ruled by psychopaths. I'm not going to vote for a psychopath. If I don't agree with somebody, even if you agreed 100%, even if you were honest in your heart and you really believed 100% in 100% of all the policies that they put forth, how do you know when they get in office, and they always do this, that they're not going to do a complete 180 and do the exact opposite? Let's institute bump stock bans. Bump stock bans. Wait a second. That means that the guy who instituted bump stock bans, Donald Trump, and I ain't giving Joe Biden slack on this. This is the channel of a libtard. He's speaking against Donald Trump. If you're going to institute a ban on any inanimate object, that means every American who owns that inanimate object just got criminalized by said person. That makes that guy a tyrant. Because what he's saying is, in the eyes of the state, I view you as a criminal, even though you didn't commit a crime, even though 5 minutes prior to the initiation of that stupid bump stock ban, you were perfectly fine. Now all of a sudden you're a diehard criminal? In the eyes of the federal authority? I think not. Or when he's sitting next to Diane Frankenstein and said Donald J. Trump says, I like take Mike, I know what you're saying, but talking to Mike Pence, I know what you're saying, but I like take the guns first, due process second. What? Wait, what? I like take the guns first, due process second. That's a violation of the Second Amendment. Donald Trump's not against the Second Amendment. That would come from the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. The only reason he said it is it's in his heart. If he truly had shall not be infringed and blazing on his heart and his mind and deep down embedded in his spirit, ain't no way anybody could utter that word, especially in the presence of Diane Frankenstein and all the Democratic gun grabbers. But he did it. He did it. People get into the cult of personality even for organizations, not just people, the NRA. And what's ironic about the NRA is it's supposed to be pro-Second Amendment. Nothing is more deceptively anti-Second Amendment than the NRA. How do you know, Brian? Give us documentation. Give us evidence to support your assertion. The NICS instant background check system, the federal instant background check system, where the government grants you or withholds permission for you to have a firearm, was instituted by the NRA. And Wade LaPierre said it wouldn't even exist if it wasn't for the NRA. The NRA brought it to the table, they got it passed, and now we have the NICS instant background check system. Background checks are an infringement. Background checks are a violation of the Second Amendment. Therefore, the NRA, who brought background checks to the table, is against the Second Amendment. Let's call a spade a spade. Black is black, white is white, the sky is green, the sky is blue, grass is green. And the NRA is decidedly against the Second Amendment. Trump never does anything wrong. So that's cult of personality stuff, guys. Not only that, everybody who supports Trump, why do they turn a blind eye to the fact that in the 1990s, Donald Trump, because he got in so deep in debt with Taj Mahal, was bailed out by none other than the Rothschilds Incorporated, the Rothschilds family banking cartel? Donald Trump was bailed out by them. And the guy who helped him get bailed out was Wilbur Ross, an employee of Rothschilds, Inc. 25 years later, Donald Trump gives the Secretary of Commerce position to none other than bankster Wilbur Ross. And he gives the Treasury over to a Goldman Sachs lifer, Steve Mnuchin. Tell me Donald Trump is on your side. He is no more on your side than Joe Biden is on your side. It's WWE, man. WWE. So anyway, people are saying, hey, that's no proof at all. That's because people don't understand what's going on. Let's see. A lot of people were saying, yeah. Another thing about Mike Lindell. What's today? Today's the 9th. So the 13th is in 4 days. After midnight, it's going to be 3 days. In 3 or 4 days, Mike Lindell says, and he says emphatically that Donald Trump will take the president's seat again. He will be sitting behind that desk at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, according to Mike Lindell. And Mike Lindell has said stuff like this before. A lot of people on the Q, what do you want to call it? The Q rolls, SGT report, X22 report, Amazing Pie. It just goes on and on and on. Simon Parks, Charlie Ward, Mel K. They all said Donald Trump is not going to leave office prior to, January 21st. Donald Trump is going to be in office. The military is going to come in and they're going to surround him and there's nobody's going to take him out of office. He's going to serve for another 4 years. Didn't happen. And then once that failed, their prophecy failed, then they had to modify and go, well, actually, he still is in office. He's just running things behind the scene. And you're looking at a clone of Joe Biden, and everything you see in the White House is basically green screened. It's just crazy. It's just so crazy. We live in some crazy, crazy times, man. By the way, real quick, before I go on, there's 390 people in the room, 197 likes. If you guys get anything positive out of these videos, if you want to throw a like my way, that's one of the best ways you can support this channel is by liking and sharing. So we got San Diego John. Thanks for doing what you're doing. This is the super chats. Kieran Tibbets drops a super chat with no comment. Ann Trower, super chat with no comment. Hey, how you doing, Ann? Mr. Nunnuisance? I can't even pronounce that. The problem is nobody does anything but complain. Well, complaining's fine. I mean, if it's based on truth, you can change the world by planting brush fires of freedom in the minds of men. If you're firing up people and they're getting fired up by the truth, you can change the world. That's why Samuel Adams said it's not the majority who will prevail, and I agree with him, but the irate and tireless minority who are keen on setting brush fires of freedom in the minds of men. I mean, I hate to use the analogy, but wasn't it the 300 Spartans, came against the entire Persian Empire and held them off for a long time? You can do a lot with a little. And if you don't think little things can make a big difference in life, then you've never spent the night in a hot, dreary tent with a mosquito. Jason Kite says, well, I like Mike. He is fighting for what he believes, even if it is a waste of time. I mean, what do y'all want to believe in and fight for? I own my business. And if I found out some, and then it just ends. I don't know. Just another mirror of society. It is a big club. And just like Carlin said, it's a big club and we ain't in it. Okay, Dirt Road Boys says, being nice isn't playing for the same team. The man has lost millions doing what he's doing. You're a bit of a nut sometimes. I never said anything about it. It sure looks like Mike Lindell's nice. I mean, at times it looks like Joe Biden and Barack Obama are nice. What does being nice have to do with anything? Doesn't have anything to do with anything. It's not about being nice. It's about he's playing the same game as CNN. I'm trying to find some negative comments. Let me see. I don't know if he's back. Somebody said he was on crack before. I'm not sure if Michael Lindell's on crack or not. It would be sad if somebody went back to that. I mean, I don't know all the ins and outs about being on crack, but the the licking of the lips and being real hyper and stuff like that, it could indicate that he is, or he could just be. I mean, those may be side effects. I don't know. I've never studied that. Wow, you really rushed through the August 13th things. Please elaborate that date. That date fast approaches. Wow, you said, okay. Raymond Oros says, wow, that's me, sound like CNN as well, making people believe Mike Lindell is part of the establishment. Mike Lindell is part of the establishment. Mike Lindell acts like he's part of the establishment, and he puts out ideas that are establishment ideas. Anybody who wants you to vote or thinks that the voting is legitimate or democracy is legitimate wants you to continue to be a part of the establishment. So at the very least, he's a spokesman for the establishment. I wonder if you're part of the resistant. Okay, so let me turn to the chat room. Let me see what you guys are saying here. Who disagrees with me? Trump sycophants are as bad as the anti-Trump liberals, says Paul Contreras, who blame Trump for everything. Both sides will never look past their love for their preferred party. Good. Well said. Well said. And that's sad but true. That is a sad but true statement. Yeah, People News Today said it's about having a dependent personality. The government literally wants you to be dependent on them and their system. It's like, oh my God, I got to get out there and vote. People go through some crazy stuff to go out there and vote. They go through, they pour through crazy resources. They will suspend everything in their lives to go to Washington, D.C. to march to try to get the attention of a politician so that they can beg and redress the government. Beg the government or petition the government for redress of grievances. It's crazy. It's crazy. Politicians don't care what we have to say. The Beacon says, hey, Grease Monkey Videos, thanks for talking about Mike Lindell. I've been thinking about this for a while. Left Winger says, I can't believe the establishment would play both sides. I think he's being facetious on that. Vince says, seems like the government loves billionaires, Musk, Bezos, Gates. Definitely. Think about it. Think about what's happened with this whole Convid 1984 by George Orwell thing. It has been a massive, and the mainstream media even admits it, it's been a massive power and wealth transfer. The most massive that I can remember reading about in recorded history. You know, you got to take history with a grain of salt, but the power and wealth transfer has been immense. Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates and Elon Musk and all these billionaires have made cumulative trillions of dollars. Their portfolios have expanded like you would not even believe. I just did a video. I can't remember if I put it on High Impact Flicks or Grease Monkey Videos, but did you see how much Pfizer stands to make with all this VAXX stuff? $33.5 billion, but it's free. Where'd all that money come from? I don't know if he jumped back on the crack wagon or what. Let's see. Crux 173, I pulled guard in Iraq. At one of the voting sites, people would get motored, take over. As soon as it was over, they'd get back in line. Tom Wary says, if you look at the distribution of drugs throughout the USA is a big volume business that the government has been involved in for 25 years or more. Oh, it's been more than that. I mean, one of the things the government likes to do is what's happening on August 11th? One of the things the government likes to do is eliminate competition. I don't want to go on until okay, so the end times are here says what's happening on August 11th. Do you mean August 13th? Because Lindell and a bunch of other people like Simon Parks, Charlie Ward, Mel K have said, hey, August 13th, Trump's going back into office. You know, it's this whole QAnon nonsense, which is clearly a psychological operation. I mean, come on, guys. Trust the plan. Trust that there are good guys in government that are going to weed out the bad guys in government. And that's going to, you just, hey, just trust. I know it doesn't look good right now, but hey, the swamp is being drained. Really? If the swamp is being drained, explain Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross, explain Secretary of State warmonger Mike Pompeo, former director of the CIA. We lied, we cheated, we stole. We had all training manuals on that. Explain Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin from Goldman Sachs. How is that consistent with draining the swamp? That's just three guys. That's just three guys. So is that what you're talking about? The end times are here? It was August 13th. Yeah, Amazing Polly is the same one. She got so offended at me. She unfriended me on Twitter or whatever you call it. Let me see if I can find that Mike Lindell August 13th prophecy thing. August 13th. Hopefully I can find it. Let's see. I did this in a video not very long ago, probably a month and a half ago or so. He's on a plane and he said, well, actually the one where he's on a plane, he says he's not leaving office. We have inside information when January 21st comes around, Trump is still going to have his feet up on the desk at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, but I'll have to look for it or just drop a link on a video that I did. I feel sorry for Amazing Polly, because, you know, she's the one that really bought hook, line, and sinker that Trust the Plan video that went hyper viral. And, you know, she was so emotional. She was crying. That's what that kind of stuff is supposed to do. It's supposed to evoke emotion, evoke patriotism, evoke feelings of national identity so that you can pick one side or the other in the left versus right paradigm lie. Guys, it's completely, you would almost think, when I first saw the Trust the Plan Q video, I was like, God, that seems banker funded, man. What a great script. What a great way to suck people into it. And lo and behold, right after that viral video, the Cube movement, it was getting fired up right before that video. Right afterwards, it was like pouring gas. It was like pouring alcohol, 100 low lead aircraft fuel on a fire. Took off like crazy. I thought he was taking, yeah, that's another thing, Watcher. Watcher says, I thought Trump was taking the presidency back on March 4th. LOL. What happened to that? Neither should have that seat, by the way. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of people who put a lot of things. They went way out on a limb, and believe it or not, they are continuing to thrive. It's amazing. These people will just completely lie and lie and lie. And when the date comes and goes where they said a certain thing was going to happen and it didn't, they continue to lie. And it's like they don't lose any of their audience. They gain more of an audience. I'm not kidding, guys. You should see here. Let's do it live right now. We'll do it live. Let's go to BitShoot right now, and I will show you. I haven't been to BitShoot in the last day or two. Let me show you the top trending in BitShoot. I bet you it's going to be SGT, X22, Amazing Polly, Charlie Ward. There's a couple other, I can't even remember their names right now, but check this out. Let's see what top trending is. Watch me be wrong. There you go. Top 3 SGT reports. Salty Cracker's always there. Salty Cracker's a pro-Trumper. I understand why people like it. It's pretty entertaining watching him, but it gets really disheartening. It's really, really disheartening. Let's see. What's this right here? There's the X20. There we go. Okay, so we got SGT report, Salty Cracker, X22 report, and they say the same things over and over and over. What you don't understand is the deep state is strong, but the patriots and Donald Trump are stronger, and they're about to overthrow this thing. Just hold on. Just wait. We're about to round the corner. Follow my breadcrumbs. There you go. QAnon is in the top 10. It's just been overrun by just Q pro-Trump, pro-QAnon, believe me, trust the plan type people. It's quite amazing. It's quite an amazing. And I do not want them to ever be censored. I do not want them ever to be, their voices to ever be eliminated from the free market, ever. And I'm not condemning people who do make the top 10. I'm just saying people who routinely make the top 10 are the people who are pushing the QAnon, trust the plan nonsense. Watch the science lesson 1. That guy puts the VAXX in science on blast. Let's see. Which one? This one right here? Okay, I'll check it out. I actually like these town hall meetings where people just get up behind the microphone and say things that the city council didn't expect. All right, I'll check that out. There's a lot of good stuff on BitShoot. Don't get me wrong, but it's amazing what they give, what people really want. People really want. If SGT and X22 is right, will Brian stop his videos? Right about what? What are you saying they're right about? Because they've been so wrong so many times. X22 is the guy who on One of the very first Q drops, what was it, October 27th, 2017, when they said Hillary was going to be arrested. He's the one that brought that out and said, sure enough, this is going to happen. This is going to happen. Came and go. Nobody says anything about it. They just kind of forget about it. Well, what that really meant was that was code for something else that's going to happen. Oh, okay. Okay. We understand. So yeah, of course, if I'm wrong, I mean, truth fears no scrutiny, guys. Truth fears no scrutiny. Wow, Brian, keep ignoring people asking you to stop the cartoon voice in all your videos. It's so funny. I can't do what everybody wants me to do. People are like, man, I like that. That's you know, that helps people pay attention. Other people are like, I don't like that. Guys, I can't just go with every whim. If I'm doing something wrong, tell me, I'll adjust and all that kind of stuff. I just can't. Hey, stop doing this. You need to stop doing that. You need to do your videos this way. You need to stop. Hey, cut that out right there. I didn't see it until just now, man. I can't see, guys. It's amazing. It's like, you didn't see my post. It's like, yeah, there were only 250 of them that just scroll down the screen at me. I'm going to miss a lot. I apologize. Don't ever stop. It's silly. Yeah, of course it's silly. I mean, I'm not trying to do something that people don't like. You know what I mean? Well, I don't like it, so stop it. Oh my gosh. Isn't it freeing not to conduct the affairs of your life according to the whims of others? Babe, you almost ready for the gym? Oh. All right, we're about to go to the gym, guys. Oh, wait, somebody soda oh, that's hilarious. Soda Scusting dropped a super chat. I don't know if you know about Reddit, but maybe check out reddit.com. No new normal. We're constantly at odds with people that want a fascist state. Your voice would be amazing in the chats. I don't think I've ever typed one thing on Reddit. I've seen some things on Reddit, but it's called No New Normal. Interesting. Don't put something in the pie hole, says Michael DeSilvio. Where's my friend Alligator? I need to bring old Sammy the alligator back. All right, guys. Hey, I really appreciate it. Please, if you haven't liked the video yet, please give it a like. There's 457 people. Thanks for hanging out with me. I really, really appreciate it. Stop reading the comments, Brian, says Shirality. We need Ultra Chat. I always get here at the end, says Kelsey. Sorry about that. I wanted to keep this under an hour, so it's at 47 minutes now. Okay, guys, thanks for the super chats. Thanks for participating in the chat room. Thanks for joining this D-Live. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to this Grease Monkey videos, High Impact Flicks, which is my main channel, and then subscribe to me over on BitShoot under High Impact Flicks. Same with the Odyssey. I will see you guys in the next live stream. Take care.